Hi everyone, I'm Jahnavi and I have Aubrey with me. She is the first person from here that I am inviting on my channel. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you through the screen and nice to be here and talk to you all and hopefully be a helpful resource.
Yes, thank you. I posted about this on my LinkedIn, YouTube, and other social media where we are doing a LinkedIn learning and resume workshop today for some students. And then Aubrey was really nice to agree to come here and do this video for also students because they expressed interest to be able to see that. And I'm going to upload this on YouTube. Yeah, thanks. Also, Aubrey has done her BS in psychology.
Yes.
And now she's in the same program as me, so doing a PhD in counseling psychology. And I'm excited to see the therapist she becomes in the future.
Yes, excited.
Okay, so here is our presentation and we can start. So we were thinking of this as identity and career development, but how we present ourselves in the real world. So our resumes, our LinkedIn profiles, and and maybe in the future we are looking at interview prep and personality development. So yeah. What we're going to do quickly is who am I, what are my goals, my identities, and then translating it on paper. So we will help you reflect on that. And you can feel free to do to pause the video and do these activities at home. We just might not have an opportunity for discussion, but I think I'm going to share an email that I have. And if you have your experiences that you would like to share with us, you can definitely send an email to me. Okay. So first is just a question to ask yourself. How has your life changed after coming to college? You can pause this video and also think of how have your identities changed. A lot of you might move to a different city or a different country. And how has your life and maybe even identities changed?
Yeah. I know for me, I am from the United States and from Iowa. And I also did my undergraduate career in the state of Iowa. And for me, I was really lost when I went into my higher education studies because I'm from a very small town, small community, and I graduated with 36 people in my class. And so coming to a larger city for me was it was a bit of a culture shock, and I felt lost in who I was, who I wanted to be, and really just how I got to be here. And yeah, so I just want to kind of address that it's okay to feel lost and kind of embrace that feeling a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's what we speak. But thanks for sharing that because a lot of the people who watch my videos come from very small towns and cities where they don't have access to psychology in the same way that big cities do.
Yes.
So this is so valuable to know that that's not only their lived experiences, and you can still do what you're doing. It's such a good example for that. So
Yes, it's very well possible. And I wanted to kind of talk about this little activity that you can do at home. And for the first, just take a couple minutes if you have a piece of paper by you and just write down who you feel like you are currently and maybe some goals that you currently have. And then after those first couple minutes, flip that paper over and create a roadmap. And it could be even a recipe like that you would make, a recipe that you read for like your favorite dish. But just write down like with that recipe or a roadmap of what got you to be where you currently are and your goals that got you to be where you are, and then your future and where you would like to see your future to be in that roadmap. And you might find that your roadmap is not straight, and it's okay to not be straight. And then from that roadmap, just kind of discuss within yourself or with your with friends, or even do a self-reflection of some of those common themes that you see in between your self-reflection and that roadmap that maybe help you identify who you feel you are. And you can apply that into a resume or LinkedIn.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can feel free to discuss or like again send us an email if you feel like you've made a roadmap or like a recipe. I have like 2 spoons of challenging experiencing or 3 spoons of strict parents.
Yes.
So that's and that's how you can link your identity to first it's important to know who you are, to be able to to put it out there. Sometimes you just don't know who we are, and we just make a resume, and then the first question that is asked is like, tell me something about yourself, and we're like, I don't know.
We like pause, like, oh, I don't know. And so really finding who you are and your identity through these exercises, and then really applying that to your LinkedIn and your resume. So in our lives right now, especially in this COVID era or post-COVID, our personal lives and professional lives are a lot of times we're finding are really intermixed now, and we're wearing a lot of hats. And so that might be like going out with your friends, to your home life with your family, to your work life and your work friends, and your supervisors and your bosses, like your relationships. You're wearing a lot of different hats, and that can also add to the be feeling lost and finding who you are. And so we really wanted to talk about who you are, and finding yourself personally and professionally on when you are wearing these hats, and how you can really really self-reflect to have that showcased in your LinkedIn and your resume, to show how great you are as a person.
Yes. And I think like this image in the mirror is actually flipped. Sometimes we don't portray ourselves well enough. And I think that's a mistake that I also made. When I first made my resume, I would just put some details and like, yeah, I just did something over here and that's it. But then I learned how to like remake it. Like I was like, oh, I spent like these many hours doing this work. I worked in this. So it took a while. And that's why we are emphasizing on this identity piece, because sometimes you might just feel like I'm not good enough. And the way we present ourselves on our resume, a lot of time it's like how you present yourself. It's not just you may have done amazing things, but it's like we need to learn how to reflect it on our resume. Uh-oh. Yes, now it's working.
Yes. And so we're just going to transition a little bit into kind of what is a resume, what takes to build a resume from who you are, so that when you are in an interview or for like a graduate program or even in a job application, you can really showcase who you are truthfully from your professional and personal life in your resume or your LinkedIn when you're asked questions. And so we'll go through some barriers, building your resume from your LinkedIn account, and offer some templates that you might find helpful. So we're just going to start with, what is a resume? And for me, when I was trying to create a resume the first time, I truthfully had no idea what a resume was, what it entailed. And that's okay to feel that way. I know I was really scrambling when I first was told I needed to make a resume. I was like, what do I do? But really, just a short definition, it's a combination of your education, your work experience, and truthfully just like who you are, that self-identity. Showcasing how amazing you are on paper or on your LinkedIn would be like a digital version of your resume. And your resume will continually grow as you grow as a person. I think that's something that really needs to be said too, is your resume is not set in stone. It's always evolving with you, and always showcasing your continuous like experiences and great successes that you've had. And so first question, how do I even start a resume? So it can be really scary identifying, like trying to figure out where to begin, and really those barriers, like John V had said, of like putting too much on there. Is there not enough? I don't want to come off as boastful. And truthfully, it's hard writing about yourself. And really also it brings into that, who am I, that self-identity again. So I think this is a great start for kind of our discussion about what a resume is and what to include on it.
Yeah, that's really helpful, because like society always tells us to be modest, but like kind of on resume, you're like, oh, I did this and I did that. I mean, so I think Aubrey has some really nice ways of how you can actually use certain words to be able to put that out there. But yeah, I mean, it's challenging also because it's like the society tells us to be like super modest, and sometimes you end up doing that on a resume. That's a mistake that I made too for several years. Yeah. And in today's world, LinkedIn, you can see so millions of people across the world use LinkedIn. And why is LinkedIn so important? It has so many members, like 830 million members with 58 million registered company. So many of them are like millennials. I mean, there are so many people being hired. There's a very high visitor to lead conversion rate. So good likelihood that you're there and you're looking for a job and you're able to actually connect with people and get a job. Personal experience, I also got my first job in a corporate organization. It was my dream job through LinkedIn. So I think that's why it works very well. How it works is like power of networking. The power of networking truly is in the second degree of network. So the network of your network. Maybe you can think of some examples in your own life that you met someone through whom you met someone else and got somewhere in your life. Like me, for example, me coming to America, and this was a professor of mine in India who happened to be speaking about me to another professor from a different university in India. And then there's this third person who was present at this conference and hearing about it, and like, who's this student you're talking about? And they're like, here she is. And I was able to connect with this third person who my professor was not even speaking with, who ended up becoming like my mentor even today. He ended up becoming a person. He was like, oh, why don't you go and study abroad? And I was like, I mean, I never thought of it. I never thought I would be here. So having that conversation, I think that was third degree. In fact, like, so that is the power of LinkedIn, is that you don't necessarily, not everybody has the opportunity to be out there now with COVID. Maybe you don't, a lot of students in India don't have that opportunity to go in big cities to be connected with networks, but through LinkedIn, you can.
Yeah.
So you can channelize your resources, have a targeted search, you can make a global connection. You can add people who are students of psychology from around the world, ask them their experiences. That's what I do. I connect with students from Indian students in other countries. I connect from Indian students in India. I connect with students from America. And it's just a wonderful learning experience and a wonderful connection that you can make. It's less time investment. I mean, significantly less. I feel like I spend more time making a resume. And yeah, and then you can do it at your own comfort. So there are some straight benefits when you're you're proactive, but there are also vicarious benefits. Like I just learned from other people's experiences on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Some people post about their interview experiences and other experiences. So it's pretty useful. First step, how to do it. First is make an account. Go on LinkedIn, sign up, and yeah. LinkedIn is not paying us, but I think we're doing a good promotion.
Yeah, I would agree.
But you can also connect with your Google account here. Step 2 is make a good profile. Like I think I'm using this example because I think he has a wonderful presence on LinkedIn. And here, education, and add your experiences. And do you want to say something about that? Oh.
Oh, you can use your experiences and you can add in skills on underneath. Like keynote speaker, you can talk about your experience with that, the skills you created and developed with that as well. It's a great way and it's easy to read. It's easy to really for other people also to see that and say, hey, this is something I'm interested in, and connect with other people that way too.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. And then Aubrey showed me a very cool thing. This is not on, but like if you go actually on this, if you click on this more button and you're able to convert this into a straight resume, which she will speak with about, like, but this is the button you actually get at, the more button, and get your resume made directly from LinkedIn, which is so amazing. Okay. So yeah, and what you choose to add on your profile, what you choose to like, who you choose to follow, that helps with search engine optimization and the connections you make. So LinkedIn will find those related people in your suggested list and for you to be able to connect with. Yeah, use your goal. If you're looking for a job, or are you just making a profile? Because it's not necessary you have to look for a job. Sometimes people just look you up, like professors look you up, or not professor, but yeah, that's like in India, employers will look you up on LinkedIn and see what your presence is like. I mean, not to see how many followers you have, but like how do you present yourself? What is your experience? Is it congruent with your resume, what you're talking about? Like, how are you connecting with people? Who are the people you follow? So careful about disclosing your political opinions in a lot of, or like other things. You have to be very careful about what you're actually choosing to portray yourself outside. Also, yeah, find out who will be useful for you, which schools to follow if you're applying to grad school or applying for a PhD, people you want to connect with and your connections, people in your class, old friends, colleagues. Join groups which might be interesting. And also, yeah, make sure that you're careful of what you're choosing to like and comment on. Yeah, like I have an example of someone that I know, and this is also like so they would write a lot about internship experiences or like and would be an advocate for a lot of other students, but then it's like they themselves have a difficult time finding a job because they're like advocating and openly writing about organizations and things like that. So very important to know and be aware of how much you want to disclose and be out there. And yeah, use advanced search, which is you can actually look for things like manager and like specific, where you want to look at, what are the connections. You can actually look at a lot of these specific things on your LinkedIn um, when you search for it. So if you're looking for like a psychologist, like you can actually search for a psychologist. And yes.
Okay, so we're going to transition a little bit. So from your LinkedIn, when you create your LinkedIn, I like to think of a LinkedIn as your social media professional profile. So it's like a digitized version of what would be on your paper resume that you would present to a graduate school admissions board or even to an employer. And when I was applying for graduate school, I personally, for me, we're in this age where social media, we're very interconnected, and it's very easy for us to we update our social media, that be Instagram a lot of times. So think of it as almost like an Instagram, but is a LinkedIn. And so if you're continually updating your experiences, like the example that John V showed, updating your experiences, your education, and your skills, you can really use what you've already created in your LinkedIn to create a resume. And on that example, there was the more button, and you can actually, through that more button, you can use that and there's an option that through LinkedIn to have them create a resume from your experiences that you've uploaded and continually updated through LinkedIn. So that it creates a paper version, and then you can edit it the way that you would like for yourself, to make it more you and showcase you. Just some like ideas to think about. And we can I give
Yeah.
oh,
Sometimes you just need to.
oh, there we go. Okay, so this is some templates that I pulled from our a career center template book that I was given and I found very helpful for me when I was creating my resume, when I was pulling from my LinkedIn. So when I was creating my resume, I had, again, to go back, I had no idea how to create a resume, really didn't know anything about it, but I had a LinkedIn and I was updating that a lot. And so when it came down to it, like I had just previously mentioned, I used what I had already created. And so through this template, this is a very beginning style resume that you can use when you are really, if you're just starting in a college, in a university setting, and you're trying to find a part-time job or even get involved in a lab and research. This is a resume that is most commonly kind of not expected, but kind of is what used through a lot of universities. So through this format, it's okay to have high school activities on the resume because that's what you have done the previous years, the previous 4 or 5 years that you've been in high school. And if you've started to get involved or in organizations on your campus, you can start adding those on. And how this matches with your LinkedIn. So your experiences, you'll have like your work or your education, and you can take those and put those in your headings. And then your bullet points would be the skills that you had underneath in those description boxes of your experiences that you used in LinkedIn. So you can just transfer that into your bullet points on your resume. And one thing that I found very helpful that I didn't know about previously is most resumes are only a page. And as you become more experienced and you have more work experience, it is okay if it does go over 1 page, but the maximum is usually 2. And I think, yeah, that's most definitely.
That's so helpful. I mean, I remember the first time I had to make a resume. I was so scared because I didn't know all of these things and how it looks like, and I didn't know anybody in my family who had a resume. So, because my father's a musician, and I'm like, he never created a resume. So this is so helpful to just know. And I mean, I'm so grateful that you actually pulled this up, because I'm sure that there'll be so many students who, for them, like, this information is so important.
Yeah. And then this is also, I wanted to add in another template that I found very useful as well. So your first resume, like I said, is always going to be evolving. So your resume from the start of it to maybe towards the end of your work career is going to be very different, and it's going to build off of this very first resume that you create. And so the first or second year template that I pulled from, as if you look in the template themselves, you can see that the high school activities, there's less of them and there's more work experience. So like I said, you were building off of those organizations and work experiences that you're currently in or have done, and in your college experience. And so as you do more and more, you will take less off of your high school experiences. Not that those are not important, those are important, but as you progress, you're going to put more of the current and prevalent information that you are working on or have worked on into your resume to showcase your growth as a person as well. And also, your resume is going to be more past tense. You don't want anything current tense. So as you can see, even if you're currently, say you're a volunteer in a position, you want to continue, even if you're still in it and you started it maybe a year or two ago, you want to continue, just keep that in past tense and just say, like June 2016 and then dash present. But in those bullet points, you will still have like inspected, developed, and promoted in those past tense forms, talking about the skills that you have learned or obtained. Yeah, I think that one, we can go to the next slide.
That's really helpful. Yeah. So basically, in past tense, so that you're actually highlighting what you did in that position. Because that's like similar to a mistake that I made, was like, I would just be like, volunteer here. But like, what did I do there? I had no information on that. So, because you could be volunteer to just, keep the papers in place, but you could also be a volunteer to do counseling and or do other services which are actually relevant for. So I think one thing about resume is also like, you can keep it relevant to that job application that you're making.
Okay. And then this one, when I was creating a resume, this is a whole concept that I did not really know and when I was creating my resume. So empowering a resume, you want a very powerful resume to really showcase and highlight you. And to do that, you need to have powerful verbs to add to the highlights. And so I pulled this template as well, and I found this very helpful when I was creating my resume. With the different, so like problem solving. So if you have a work experience where you did a lot of problem solving or critical thinking, you can pull those verbs that are categorized to that work environment. If you were in volunteering and you had a leadership role, that's where the leading category would come in, and you would start your bullet points with one of those words, and you start with that and then go into the skills that you acquired. So an example I found or created actually was collaborated and communicated with colleagues to ensure fast and excellent service. So that collaborated and communicated are your power verbs, like boosting that amazing highlight of ensuring that you had fast and excellent service with customer service with people you were helping. And so you're collaborating, communicated with also teamwork with your colleagues, but also collaborated with the customers that you were helping, or yeah, I would say that makes sense. I hope.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. And yeah, I think, I mean, that's mainly what we have for So we just wanted to say that, because the other information is just university specific, but I'm gonna add that we want to acknowledge that it's a lot. Like sometimes when I also started reading was I started feeling guilty, like I'm not using LinkedIn enough and stuff. But it's fine because it's actually too much to do. So recognizing your limit, and it's okay if you're not like a LinkedIn expert. Not everybody has to be. This is just information for you, and it can be helpful. But yeah, it's not meant to be to make you feel like, oh my God, that's another added thing. Apart from this, I also wanted to say that, I mean, this, you know, LinkedIn especially, I would encourage students, especially coming from smaller towns and cities, or even rural areas, or areas which are not very connected. Um, you can actually you will be able to connect with so many. I have had so many Indian students who've connected with me through LinkedIn. Um, and and I know if I have that opportunity, or if they're asking me to do something which is possible in my capacity, being a student abroad, doing a PhD, I try my best to do that. And the same way I have connected with people, and I'm sure you must have too, and sought that sort of help. So please feel free to reach out to people and seek that help that you might need.
Yes, and even from as a student perspective, I use LinkedIn to find shadowing experience for potential occupations that I wanted to explore. And so when I was looking into psychology in my undergraduate studies, I really used LinkedIn to connect with other psychologists or psychiatrists to kind of explore those fields and see if that was for me. And I found that it was for me, and I really enjoy the field. And you can really connect through them, and also meet their students too, that they're also mentoring, and connect through them all throughout LinkedIn. So it's really a great resource beyond just your resume too. It's just that network. It makes the world seem like a little smaller.
Yeah, and it more accessible for
Yeah.
sure. But I'm so grateful to you, Aubrey, for being here. Thank you so much. And if you appreciated her effort, please, I'm gonna again put the email. Please do write a note and do let us know what you feel. If you're feeling comfortable to write it in the comments, or you can feel free to send us an email, and I'll make sure to forward it to her, and so that she reads it and sees what you think about her.
Well, thank you for listening, and thank you for having me. I hope I was a little bit helpful for you all. I know trying to create a resume and even the self-identity, there's no end destination. They're both things that are always evolving. So always having that mentorship and having resources available and people to answer your questions is always very nice. So hopefully I was helpful and can answer questions.
Thank you.
If anyone has any. So.
Please do post them in the comments. And again, thank you. And she's a great example. Like a lot of people have been asking me about, oh, can I be from a small town and small city and still go to a big college? And she's a person who has done that. And I really admire that, and it's very inspiring.
It is doable.
Yeah, she's done it. So I hope that this video is helpful. Thank you so much.